Welcome to Dr. Lottie's Science with Soul. I'm Dr. Lottie and the host of this podcast. Today, I am so excited to introduce Ginny Jablonski. As an intuitive, Ginny helps both humans and animals understand how past trauma is affecting their lives. The experiences of her own life compelled her on a journey of exploring the complexities of consciousness through the study and understanding of multiple esoteric traditions and modalities. She shares what she has learned on her journey to self-awareness with others in an easy to understand language that is both practical and highly esoteric in nature. Her greatest passion is to promote the evolution of interspecies consciousness, allowing us to deepen our bonds with our animal friends. So welcome, Ginny. It's such a pleasure to have you as a guest today.
Thank you, Lottie. I am so excited to talk with you.
So you have such an interesting background, and I know that you worked in the field of international private security, and then you've battled your own illnesses and you've left that and you went on an incredible healing journey. Literally took you around the world to study with different indigenous people. And you are a human and animal soul whisperer, a horse medicine facilitator, an author, inspirational speaker. How did you end up on this path?
Well, by necessity. It wasn't a conscious choice I made. Definitely, after my second near-death experience, I began to perceive multidimensionally. And for the most part, I perceive everything as consciousness: the physical body, the nervous system, the chakras, the subtle bodies, the light bodies, earth, plants, animals. We are all consciousness existing at different multidimensional levels of our reality. And, it is said that humans see, is it 1% of the available light spectrum, right? So there's 99% more for us to perceive. And I'm certainly not suggesting that I perceive the other 99%, but maybe another 2 or 3. It was pretty fascinating. But what that did was it allowed me to see things that most people couldn't, even most people that had studied for decades. And oftentimes I could see more than the people I sought out for education, for healing. Most of the healers I went to said, "You're healing me more than I'm healing you. You're helping me. You're providing me with more, clear information than I've ever come across." And a lot of teachers had to invalidate me because they couldn't perceive at the level I could perceive, therefore it must be wrong. So that is what compelled me to keep seeking. I thought, well, there must be someone who can understand that isn't limited by protocol or what they read in a book or indigenous practices that have served humanity well for millennia. But it seemed as though I was being given a glimpse into what future humans were going to be able to express, and the ways in which I've chills, the ways in which we would be living our lives and perceiving our reality and communicating with one another. And it was tough in the beginning because unfortunately, as humans, especially those of us who live in the United States, we're under quite a bit of stress. There's a lot of competition, and that feeds into, various conversations that, we could go down rabbit holes for hours. But that truly is what compelled me to keep seeking, was to find people who truly could resonate with what I was seeing or help me understand it, because it wasn't in a book. It just wasn't.
Yeah, I know. I'm aware that you have studied with several indigenous people, such as Benny LeBeau, also known as a Rainbow Thunderheart, grandmother Florid Mayo, who is part of the International Council of 13 Indigenous Grandmothers, as well as the Aborigines in Australia. Is there anything that you would like to share about any of the teachings from these amazing people that you have worked with?
Well, I was most struck by the work of the Aboriginal people. Um, with Benny LeBeau, I learned a lot about earth shamanism, the energetic construct of the earth. He was trying to dispel myth and help people understand prophecy. And that was very fascinating. It wouldn't be necessarily the road I would eventually go down, but it helped me to understand quite a bit. And we discovered a lot together too. We became very good friends. And at the end of his life, he came to live with my husband and I when he had cancer. So we became quite close. Grandmother Flor de Mayo is a Mayan elder, and she has quite a bit of information to gift. She talks quite about Mayan numerology, Mayan astrology, the Mayan calendar, and that's all fascinating. But again, it wasn't something that I would spend multiple years studying because it wasn't the direction I was going to take. The Aboriginal people had what I refer to as very practical, very down to earth tools, yet very esoteric knowledge as well. And that is what really impressed me. And that is really the hallmark of my work. And it helped me to understand consciousness more. And the way I perceive consciousness, the way I perceive our mind, our subconscious, our conscious mind, the Aboriginals had explanations for that. And that is what fascinated me and what compels me to continue to study. And I work with a man named Steve Richards, also very well-known man, who teaches anybody who will listen. Right now, he and the people that study with him in Australia are going into prisons for the criminally insane and healing people through releasing people from past life entanglements. I mean, it is fascinating work. It's highly esoteric, but it's very real. There is an entire field of psychology yet to be discovered for modern psychologists, and that it goes further than just having a wounded inner child. It really addresses fractured consciousness itself and where the coping mechanisms come from within our subconscious, the belief systems and constructs. It's quite fascinating, and it's frankly more complex than even Carl Jung can describe, because archetypes are a wonderful, useful tool. Symbols and metaphor, mythology, Joseph Campbell, it's all a wonderful tool, but it doesn't explain consciousness, individuated consciousness in the way that I would like to see it explained. And in the future, I hope to contribute to that conversation.
Wow, it's just amazing, but it's fascinating. I feel like we are on the cusp of that and starting to understand that there's just so much more, and the consciousness itself and the entanglement with all that is, with animals, with all life on earth, with each other, with our ancestors, backwards and forwards in time. And it's a fascinating topic. I know you also work with something called cogno movements. Can you explain what that is?
Yes, well, cogno movement was created by Bill McKenna and Liz Larson, and it employs the genius of EMDR, which is used a lot in traditional therapeutic sessions. It also includes Chinese medicine principles, Taoist principles, utilizing the meridians of the body, teeth, hands, left brain, right brain, governing vessel, etc. It also utilizes the science, the proven science of neurolinguistic programming, and many other philosophies are sort of woven in. And what it does, it very similarly to EMDR, a therapist will use their fingers and have their elbow on the table and go back and forth, left, right, the eye movement, as a person is talking about a traumatic event. So when we're lighting up the place cells in the brain where the unprocessed memory is healed, it is also corresponding to a place in the body that generally is creating some level of pain, imbalance, disease, dysfunction in the physical body. And what cognitive movement does is it takes the elbow off the table, right? It uses a ball. We reach down below the root chakra and then lift our arms and lift the ball the whole way up above the head, accessing the kinesthetic, visual and auditory learning systems of the brain, using very heavily the left-right eye movement, as well as the infinity, which is also used in neurolinguistic programming. It's quite fascinating and it's very effective. And at this late stage in the game for me, I would not have gone and gotten certified in another healing modality if it wasn't totally effective and legitimate. And it truly helped me with some core trauma that I experienced as a child. When I was 3 months old, I had a very distressing near-death experience. And I kept looking for years. I had been, 7, 8 years on a journey, and not just like a couple of weekend workshops. I studied, I traveled, I downloaded, I took every class, I got certified in many things that I wouldn't even admit that I'm certified in now, and I kept looking, and it got to a point where people were just saying, you're fine where you are, just enjoy your life. Why do you keep looking? And I said, because I know there's something in the core of me. It is deep in the core. I can't see it. I don't know what it is. And I'm not where I know I can be. Maybe it's not time, but I'm going to continue to look. And it was core trauma and anger at God, because I had a near-death experience when I was 3 months old. And he sent me back, and I did not want to come back. And it was a very heated exchange with Creator/God. And I carried that anger at God in my core, and it wasn't obvious to me. And I had looked, I was an archaeologist of my consciousness every day for a decade, and I couldn't find it. And cognitive movement helped me to find that, and priceless, priceless.
Wow. So what happened when you were 3 months? Were you sick, or what caused the?
I contracted whooping cough from a dog, which is basically kennel cough, Bordetella, right? And so I was in the hospital. I was packed in ice in a tent. I had turned blue. My mother told me this when I was about 12 years old, which is how I consciously knew that, but I'd forgotten it. And the doctor said it didn't look great. I turned blue, packed in ice in a tent. That, nothing I could do, nothing they could do for me. And so I went. That near-death experience was one that is similar to people who just go into that black nothingness, the oneness, the velvety space. And there was a voice, and it was just from all around me. I didn't see anything. There wasn't a light. It was just a void. And the voice to me sounded like a man. And, he said, you have to go back. And I said, oh no, you just don't know what I'm going to experience in my life. It's going to be very traumatic. My mother is not a kind person. It's not going to turn out well. Please don't make me. And we went back and forth 7 or 8 times, and I got pretty hysterical. And this came to me through an unplanned, a very spontaneous, what we would call hypnotic regressive experience through an intuitive massage. And it just, how people have somatic release in massage sometimes. Well, I was laying on my stomach. I had my face in the cradle, and the woman was standing at my head with her hands on my back. And I said, oh, I'm having a vision of a baby. Why am I seeing like this, an infant? And then all of a sudden I was propelled into the space, reliving that experience. And that happened in early 2018. And, I had my whole life, I had no idea, but I was on such a journey of trying to find out what at the core of me was causing the imbalance, that I was shown that. And that certainly made sense. That was a very difficult experience to relive. And I was hysterical when I was reliving it. I was crying hysterically, more so than I can ever remember in my life, crying or being hysterical. The woman had her hands on my back, and I could feel her tears just drip, 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 this constant drip on my head of her tears as I was reliving this experience, screaming back and forth with the creator. It was not a pleasant experience to relive.
I can imagine that it was not
Yeah.
a pleasant experience. But now you have put all this, you've healed this and integrated this into your life now.
Well, to my knowledge, I mean, how any one of us could claim that we're totally and completely healed. You know, I certainly find things almost on a daily basis for myself to release or forgive or unwind or, you know, and as we evolve in consciousness, at least from my experience, it's true for me that as I evolve in consciousness, it's like walking up a spiral staircase. And as you achieve another level or degree or octave of consciousness, as people refer to it, it seems as if more lifetimes are available to us to release any, any distortion, any polarity, any judgment, any unforgiveness. So as we grow and learn, we have more of an opportunity to heal. At least that's my experience.
And then you had another near-death experience later on.
Right. In 2012, yes. And that was as a result of prescription opioid medicine. And that's a long story. We don't have time to talk about that today, but it was prescription. And I had tried to avoid narcotics and opioids for 7 years. And eventually I was told that, fentanyl was my only hope. And the pain was real. It was extraordinarily severe. It felt as if my bones were going to explode from the inside out. And in fact, my bone marrow, what looked like a honeycomb, it was just dried up, and my body was really attacking itself. And so 4 years on fentanyl, and my brain forgot to tell my lungs to breathe. And that's exactly what it says on the insert. If you take this medicine, your brain can forget to tell your lungs to breathe. So that launched me on an absolute campaign, on opioid awareness and working with doctors and osteopaths and naturopaths such as yourself and chiropractors. I've supported legislation for chiropractic to be funded by Medicare in my home state of Arizona, where you and I both live. And unfortunately, COVID put the kibosh on that legislation that was just about to go before the Senate, so the state Senate. But it's very much impacted my life. And it was that near-death experience that when I woke up in 2012, I could see multidimensionally, I could hear consciousness. I knew that everything was conscious.
Do you believe that you incarnated for this journey?
Now I do.
There's a reason why you had to have all these experiences.
Well, I mean, to be fair, if all I've accomplished in my life is just healing my own self and resolving past lives and releasing judgments and understanding my own consciousness and my own humanness better, then that's a job in itself. And I would be very pleased if I were to pass away today and that I've accomplished that much. But truthfully, I think that there's much more to do. And in sharing the journey and sharing the level of information and being a bridge to higher levels of consciousness to help people understand who haven't had a near-death experience and been gifted the tremendous gift of being able to see and have access directly to your oversoul. This is, in my experience, remarkable. And I intend to employ this to great effect throughout the rest of my life in any way that I possibly can, to be of service to other people who struggled, who experienced trauma, abuse, and who are struggling to evolve, to forgive, to let go. I think part of that is my journey, but there's another piece as well that you're aware of, Lottie, and that's my connection with the animals. And how that came about was pretty remarkable as well. But I do have a soul agreement with the Council of Animals, and in particular horses and dogs, to work with the human and animal evolution of conscious interspecies relationships. And the way that came about was pretty interesting. If you'd like me to share that.
Yes, yes, please.
So as I was working on my journey with humans, and I never set out in any way to be a healer, and I kept being told I was a healer, that I should go into practice, and I thought, wait, I'm very traumatized. I know that I'm not clear enough to be doing this work. And I knew that because I met so many healers in that job description who probably shouldn't have been doing what they were doing, and I could see their trauma, and my soul made a point. And then my soul would show me, oh, remember in a past life where you were a healer and you maybe didn't use your, gifts and abilities very ethically, or maybe you were confused. So I was always shown I did it too at some point. But eventually I gave in. People just kept saying, I know I have a client that you could help. Will you please? So around 2015, 2016, I finally said, okay, fine, but I can't charge people a lot of money because I didn't invest hundreds of thousands of dollars yet. At this point I have, but back then I didn't. And so I didn't feel, frankly, worthy to charge a lot of money for the information I was bringing through. And it's never been that I've literally claimed to heal anybody, but provide people information from their soul, from their energy field, from their body, as to what they're not seeing, what they're resisting, or what they're missing. How can their soul, their guides, give them information to help them overcome some stumbling block that they just can't seem to get past. It's more information. So I call myself an intuitive, not a healer. But what happened was I was working with people, and I was on the phone about 10 hours a day. All of a sudden I had clients all over the world. And I was shocked. I was really shocked. And what happened was animals kept coming into the human sessions. And I would say, well, do you have a white cat? Or do you have a black horse? The horse is alive, or the cat is dead. Or did your girlfriend used to have a cat? Because I think that cat is dead, but it's very mad at you and it's in your energy field. And until you apologize for being so mean to that cat is never going to leave your energy field. Silly things and profound things as well. And sometimes they wanted to just give messages of love and appreciation, or sometimes they wanted a little help on the other side, or sometimes they wanted to provide help to their owner or resolve past lives in between humans and animals, which is a thing, come to find out, right? And so one day I was meditating, and I remember this so clearly. I started meditating and I was like, why are all these animals bothering me? I'm really trying to help people here. It seems like they're just intruding on my sessions. This is really getting out of hand. And this giant spirit horse, who is my primary guide, it turns out, appeared in my room and took up half of the ceiling with her giant head. And she said, don't you remember? We're the ones that led you on your journey of overcoming trauma and healing. We're the ones that asked you to come back from your NDE. That would be my second NDE. Don't you remember? And then I remembered that in my second NDE, I was ready to go. I was going to go. And I heard a noise behind me, and it was horses and donkeys behind me. And they said, don't go, don't go. Don't you remember? There's something important you have to do. And so in that moment, I remembered that. But, when she asked me, I said, no, I don't remember. But then I remembered, it was like an epiphany. And she said, there is something very important that we need you to do. And we need you to share everything you've learned about overcoming trauma and human consciousness and transpose that to animals, because people just aren't talking about this enough for animals. Animals can be traumatized too. Too many people are ascribing to animals that they're just these spirit helpers, and all of them are just these pure, divine souls who have nothing but wisdom to offer, when in fact the opposite could not be further from the truth. And there are many animals suffering on the planet right now because of their close, let's say, entanglement with humanity for the last many centuries, certainly in modern times, in the last 100 years. Agriculture, the Industrial Revolution, competition, all of it, right? So they said, we need you to become an animal communicator and speak about this topic. And I said, I'm not an animal communicator. I don't even know what that means. Do you have to go to school for that? And of course I did. I tried to go to school for that. And then everybody thought, I was nuts, and because they had made it up, in the 70s and 80s, right? And so they weren't doing it the way I was going to do it anyway. But, and they said, don't worry, we're going to take care of that. And that was probably around 2016 when they said that. So I just waited and kept doing my thing. And in December of 2017, I was sleeping one night and I was woken up and I was told, go to San Diego. And I went, what? I'm not going to San Diego. It's midnight. What do you, no, I don't know anybody in San Diego. Who are you? Go away. And I went back to sleep. 3 o'clock, go to San Diego. And I said, no, I don't know anybody in San Diego. I live in Arizona. It's the middle of the night. I'm not going to San Diego. About 5:30, go to San Diego, really loud. So I woke up, oh, great. It's 5:30. I'm never going to go back to sleep now. Got myself a cup of tea, turned on Facebook, and the first post, there's a fire in northern San Diego County that has displaced 1,000 horses. So I got up, packed my things, and went to San Diego. And after that experience working with the traumatized horses from the fire, because of Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, and people were sharing the work I was doing with them, and it was good work, and within months I had like 200 animal communication clients, and I just totally stumbled into it. I mean, I almost didn't go, but they told me, don't worry, we'll take care of it. So the next couple of years I spent traveling. I was so moved by what I discovered about, and I had been a horse person and owned horses, but just privately, I was so insulated in my own little world. I didn't really know anything because I wasn't really into competition. I just sort of rescued and rehabbed horses, but I kept to myself, really. And I found out about what is really going on in the horse industry. And that, again, is another very long conversation. But what I did was I dedicated the next 2 years of my life and donated about $100,000 and traveled across the US multiple times, driving back and forth from coast to coast, including Canada, and visited, 30, 40 horse rescues and worked with between 450 and 500 horses in person in those 2 years, traumatized horses. Off the track thoroughbreds, retired barrel racers, professional working horses, jumping horses, as well as just backyard horses too, who had been neglected. And so that's pretty much how I stumbled into the field of animal communication and became well known working with traumatized animals. And that's about 50-60% of my work, but I do work with humans as well. And it's a very important part of my work.
So you work with horses, traumatized horses, traumatized humans. You also work with dogs?
Yep. Dogs and cats. Yep.
Dogs and cats. So everybody out there that needs help with your dog, cat, horse, or yourselves, give Ginny a call. She's amazing. So we are going to segue into a little bit of a personal story that happened just a few weeks ago. And my dog, I have a dog, and it's a labradoodle, and she is 4 years old, and I wanted her to have puppies, so I never spayed her. And I had planned on her having puppies when she was 2, but we went into lockdown and it was COVID. So this time around, when she went into heat, I looked at my daughter and I said, well, it's either now or never. So if we're going to have puppies, we're going to do it now because she's 4 years old. I'm not waiting until next year. It's too late. So she had puppies. She had 7 very cute, adorable puppies. And as these puppies were growing up and we were going to try and find homes for them, they were about 7 weeks old, and these puppies, this one puppy that we had named Sailor at the time because he just sailed into life. He just popped out and he took his first breath and he was there. So of course, everybody renames their puppies many times when you get them, but in order to have people relate to the pictures, it's easier if they have a name. So anyway, every time it started this Saturday, I think they were about 7 weeks old. And every time this puppy came to me, Sailor, he would show me an image of a ranch, and he was running on this ranch. And I said, wow, are you, this is amazing. You're showing me this image. And then it happened again on Sunday, and it happened again on Monday. So 3 days in a row, every time Sailor came to me, he would show me this image, and I could see the corral, the fencing that goes around the horses. So I knew it was somebody who had horses, and it was some kind of a ranch. And he also, on some of the images, one of the female dogs, little black female, and her name was Honey, would run alongside him. And it was as if they went in a pair. And so it was difficult to say, is it just Sailor or is Honey with him? Because some of the images, she would be there too. And so then Tuesday came around, and I said, we gotta start finding homes for them because they're getting older. We gotta find homes. They gotta go home between 8 and 10 or 12 weeks. So I reached out to everybody on Facebook that lives in Arizona, and I said, hey, we had these really great puppies. They've been nurtured and cared for. They're inside our house. We work with them every day. We pet them and really take good care of them. And one of the people that I messaged on Facebook was Ginny. And I had met Ginny about 2 or 3 years ago when I lived up in the northern part of Arizona, up in Prescott, doing my residency out there. And we had only met 2 or 3 times. So I didn't know Ginny well. I had never been to her house or her ranch. I knew she had horses but I didn't know much about her. So anyway, she was part of the people that I messaged on Facebook. I said, hey, we have these puppies. And I figured, well, she works with animals. She might know somebody who's looking for a labradoodle. So I messaged everyone, and I included a picture of all the puppies so that everybody could see what they looked like. And then the next day, or that same day, Ginny responds. And I'm going to give it over to you now.
Well, you left out one thing, if I could ask you to
Yeah.
share, because you actually went on my Facebook page and saw one of my posts.
Yes. Oh, you mean what it looks like?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But that was after.
Oh.
It was after you reached out, and
Okay.
then it had not occurred to me that the images that Sailor was showing me about the ranch, that it could be potentially you. It did not even occur to me. I just went through Facebook and I said, well, Ginny might know someone, but it didn't even connect the two yet. So that came later after you reached out, and I was like, oh my gosh.
Okay, so we'll tell the story in order then.
Okay.
So Monday, so Lottie had said Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, the puppy was giving her pictures, right?
And that was the first time an animal communicated with me, except that one incident of the bobcat in Prescott.
When you and I got together for the first time and met for the first time.
Yeah, and with the bobcat that had an injured leg from jumping off the rocks. But other than that, no messages from animals. That was the only message ever until now.
Beautiful. So you messaged me on a Tuesday afternoon. On Monday, our beloved dog of 8 years passed away. We had her for 8 years. We got her when she was 3. She was a puppy mill dog. She was a rescue, and she was my husband's best friend. And my husband was beside himself. I was, of course, grief-stricken. It was very sad and unfortunate. And we wish she could have lived forever. But we were both really in significant distress. My husband much more so than me. We went to sleep that Monday night. And in the middle of the night, I heard a little voice say, I'm here. And I said, oh, who are you? And he said, I'm your new puppy. And I went, oh, I don't think my husband is ready for this, but okay. How do I find you? And he said, don't worry, I'll find you. And I did not dare say anything to my husband because honestly, he was in a very fragile state. And so was I. But being an animal communicator, I deal with euthanasia all the time. I know life is eternal. I know they're there on the other side. So I do handle it a little better than most people, but not much, just a little. So I just went back through my business that day. And of course I jumped on the internet looking for, trying to find the dog, which was stupid. I did because I wasn't going to find the dog. And you messaged me in the afternoon with your lovely message about the puppies and a picture of 7 puppies. And I didn't think anything of it. You just had this message. But when I looked at the pictures of the 7 puppies, one puppy said, it's me. I'm your new puppy. And so I immediately said to you, well, I think, the one on the top left or whatever, I think that might be a dog for me. And that's when you responded back.
Yeah, and that's when I told Ginny, I said, that is the dog that has showed me an image of being on a ranch. So it was just like, oh my gosh, it gives me chills still. It's just such an amazing story, but it goes on. It gets even more entangled. So then you guys come down to look at the puppies, right? That's what comes next.
Yep. And so my husband wasn't sure he wanted to come and remember I told you, I really want this dog, but my husband's really suffering. And I mean, I was not playing coy or being dishonest in any way. My husband was very distraught and I couldn't just say, hey, let's get a dog, that day. Yes, it was heaven sent. Yes, the universe was coordinating this. But again, my husband might not believe that as much as I do or you do, right? So I had to be gentle. And I was going to come visit you on Saturday to meet my dog, right? And I told my husband and he said, I can't come. I don't want another dog. And I just looked at him and I said, that's what you said about our last dog. You didn't want to go meet her either. And look at how much love she brought into our home. And he said, you're right. I can't argue with that. Okay, I'll go with you. So we came down that Saturday to meet the puppies. And you show us through your lovely home. And at that time, the beautiful room that you're in right now, all the furniture was cleared out and there was a puppy pen with 7 puppies in it, right? And so you opened up the gate and 6 of the 7 puppies come pouring out and attack my husband. And my husband is just giggling and he's down on his knees on the floor and loving it. And I think you were probably paying a little bit of attention to that. And one of the puppies stayed inside, one of the black females. And she was standing not at the open gate, but at the fence. She sat and looked up at me and she said, nobody wants me. And I right away, I had this flash of, I do, you can come home with me, but cooler heads prevailing, right? The voice of reason saying, wait a second, you're lucky you're getting 1. Don't say anything about 2. Let's take this slow and see what happens. So, and it happened in a flash. And I said to her, oh, honey, I'm sure somebody wants you. Please don't worry. I just know somebody's going to want you and love you. Everything's going to be fine. So then she ran out and they were all just playing and laughing and having a great time. And we were there for about a half an hour. And I was cognizant of your schedule. And I was also wanting to get back home, to our horses. And I said, okay, we've been here for 30 minutes. It's time to go. So trying to wrangle puppies is like trying to wrangle a herd of cats. So we couldn't. So the 3 of us, my husband, myself, and you, we all stepped into the puppy pen, thinking we could call them in, which did work. And so my husband I wasn't really paying attention to my husband. My eye was drawn to Frankie. He came over, walked straight up to me, sat down, looked up at me and said, you're my person. I choose you. And I said, yes, I choose you as well. You're my dog. You're coming home. This was telepathic, right? And I think I said to you, I don't remember, but I think I did mention something. So he went over to the corner of the kennel there and laid down with one of the black females and put his little chin on the hind end of one of the little black females. And I said, that's so cute. And that's when I said to you, I think that's the puppy that said to me, nobody wants me. And then you shared another part of the story. So go ahead.
That Honey and Frankie are together. They make a whole. Their hearts are linked. And that Honey is supposed to go with Frankie, who we used to call Sailor, but he's now known as Frankie. And I know you were cautious. And in the meantime, the other black female, there was 2 black females in the litter, Daisy, is sitting at your husband's feet and just staring into his eyes the whole time. And it was very apparent that that was the dog that was going to be with your husband, right? Because she basically did not leave his feet. And then we also had heard, so you said, I just heard her say, nobody wants me. And that is the message I had also received from her, nobody wants me. And I had been telling her for a whole week, of course somebody wants you and you're going to be loved. And, we don't know, maybe you're supposed to go with Frankie, we don't know yet, but somebody wants you. And that's just the message we kept giving to her. So
when I saw him put his little chin on her and you said, they're always together, they're a pair, they're always together. And then you said to me, Ginny, I want you to know, he's been telling me that she is coming with him. So you and I, our eyes light up, we smile at one another, and I say out loud, and we still don't know what's going on with my husband, or I didn't, you might have, because you were looking in that direction. So I said to my husband, I thought, without looking at him, well, do you think we might go home with 2? And that's when I turned to look at my husband, who was down on his knees with this other dog that had clearly just chosen him.
Yeah.
And my heart broke, because I thought, I can't deny, first of all, we don't right away, like, we can't have 3 puppies. I can't deny my husband this dog he just fell in love with. This is so clear that they are choosing one another. And so I was just, like, you and I did not verbalize anything to him at that point. And because I knew that his heart was so fragile right then. And also asking for 3 labradoodle dogs in a 2,000 square foot house is it's a big ask, I mean, literally take the furniture out of the house and make the house a puppy pen, right? And that's pretty much what we've done. So what I decided to do was just wait. And I know that you had to sell the puppies and you wanted to know what was going on with them, but I was trying to weigh respecting you and respecting my husband. And I was really in a difficult place. I knew the universe was conspiring to bring these 2 puppies to me, but I felt so strongly that my husband and this dog were such a perfect match, and that she was going to be yet another love of his life. And I couldn't reconcile in my mind consciously having 3 puppies. So I put off telling him about your and my discussion about Honey. So we went home and you kept texting me throughout that week. I really think she's supposed to be with you. I really think she's supposed to be with you. And we had put down the deposit on Daisy and Frankie, and Daisy is the other black female. And you can only tell them apart because Daisy has this cute little white soul patch on her bottom lip. It's so cute. And I think the universe did that on purpose.
You're right.
But and so I don't know if you have anything to share from your perspective in that week.
So yeah, so we, I kept saying she's supposed to be with Frankie, but I understand that, they're already committed to 2 dogs, and 3 dogs is a lot more than 2 dogs, 1 each. Now it's 2 dogs and 1 dog. And then you called me and you said, if for any reason nobody takes Honey, I want you to know that she can come to our house. And also, if somebody takes her and returns her, then this is the craziest story. If anybody returns her, then I want you to know that she's coming to us. And I'm thinking, somebody's going to return Honey. People don't return puppies. That doesn't happen, right? But I'm listening. I'm open-minded. So I listened. I said, okay. And then what happened next? You guys were here like Saturday or Sunday. Thursday, some other people came to look at one of the other males, and they really felt, they're like, oh my gosh, it would be so fun to have two puppies. You had two left, one male and Honey that had not been cleaned. And they decided we're going to take both. We're going to take both the Honey and the other male, Nutmeg. And I texted Ginny and I said, Honey has found a home. She's going home. She just went home with one of the other puppies. And the text back from you was that, it's wonderful that she found a home. But inside of me, I knew that you were not pleased. Working with spirit all the time, we feel emotions of other people at a distance. And I knew that you weren't pleased. I had tears running down my face because I was like, she's going to the wrong home. Even though these people were very loving and, I knew that probably was going to be great. Well, an hour went by and this couple called and said, and she was crying and she said, we made a mistake. It's too much for us to have two puppies. And they already had an adult dog. They had two adult big dogs, but one had passed away a year ago. And so they wanted to get, a new playmate for the big dog. But two puppies, when they got home, they realized was too much. So I said, of course, bring her back. Just come back right away. I will refund you the money, of course. And so I look at my daughter and I said, you know what? Honey's coming back. And my daughter looks at me and she says, text Ginny right now. So I text Ginny and I said, Honey is coming back. So here is the whole story of Honey being returned. Right. And so at that point, you just said, that's it.
She's ours.
Yeah.
It was actually that morning. And I still had not said to my husband, I'm in love with a second dog. I felt it was unfair of me because I watched his heart continue to break every day. It was really difficult. Yeah. And I couldn't bring myself to, but that next Thursday, I finally did. Mm-hmm. I said, Honey, I actually fell in love. Honey, my husband, Honey, I did fall in love with one of the other dogs. And when I had said, do you want to get two? And I blurted that out and you were looking at the other one. I said, I just need you to know that my heart is telling me that this other dog is supposed to be with us. And I understand 3 labradoodles is a lot, but there is something about this in the universe. And I know that she's going to come live with us. So would you please give your blessing? And he said, yes. He said, we're going to go pick up, Frankie and Daisy in 2 weeks. We'll pick her up at the same time. Nobody's going to adopt her. She'll come to us. And then I said, and one more thing, if somebody does buy her or adopt, and they ever return her in her entire life, I want to ask Lottie to write into the contract that the dog has to come back to Lottie so she can come to us. And he said, yes, no matter how old she is, no matter what the circumstances, we will always take her. She will be our dog. And within, so I called you that Thursday, like 8 o'clock in the morning. I waited till a decent hour to tell you because we talked about it at like 5 in the morning. And at 5 o'clock that night or so, you texted she had been gone. When you sent that text, Lottie, I cried. I bawled my eyes out for about 30 minutes. My husband came in and said, what's wrong? And I said, honey, here's a picture of her in her new home. She's gone. This is so wrong. And he started crying and he said, are we being punked by the universe? This can't be right. And I was really not hysterical, but I was very upset. But I didn't want to tell you because I'm the one that I could have given you a deposit, And within an hour, you texted and said she was on her way back, I scream and I go running to tell my husband. He goes, yes, she's ours. And I ran to the computer and sent you the deposit. So that's the whole story.
It is an amazing story though, because the animals knew from the beginning that they were supposed to be with you, and they communicated with you and with me and my daughter that this was the place where they belong. Mm-hmm. And I know that there is some amazing things that are going to happen with the work that you are going to do with the dogs and the horses and trauma and healing. And I can't wait to see, we're going to have a follow-up sessions like every year of where the puppies are at and what you're working with, because I feel like you're doing, there's going to be some groundbreaking work that are going to come through with this, because this was divinely guided, the placement of these puppies in your specific home. So the universe has something up their sleeve that is about to manifest on your ranch.
I think so. And like you, I have no idea what it is yet, but I think I have a sense, and I know what direction we're going. And he keeps telling me, Frankie, he's the main spokesperson, for them. And he just says, just let us be puppies. Everything will work out. And so many people warned me, oh, you shouldn't even have 2 puppies from the same litter, let alone 3. They're going to bond with each other. They're not going to bond with you. And I keep saying, give me a break. This is being divinely guided. The puppies assure me everything is going to be fine. We have the resources for training if necessary, and we certainly will do that, whether or not. And it's going to work out, because the visions I'm having of them full grown, they're very calm, they're very grounded, and they're so intelligent. They're so they already behave differently, just knowing if I approve or disapprove of what they're doing, they literally just stop doing it. Or if I walk out of the room and then Frankie barks, I'll go back in and he'll say, well, where are you going? I need to know where you are at all times. So I say to him, well, I'm just going to go in my office and work with a client for an hour, and you're going to take a nap for an hour. He'll just sit down, lay down, and go to sleep. He will go from barking and then for me just telepathically saying, it's just time for you to take your nap right now. Oh, well, that's all you had to tell me. Yeah. He's such a genius. He's just incredible.
I can't wait to see, what's going to evolve out of all of this. It's just an amazing story. So it's been such a pleasure to have you as a guest today. How can people find you and work with you?
Well, my website, and I don't do social media, so my website is really the only vehicle to get to me, and that is heartofthehorse.us. heartofthehorse.us. And I want to add, Lottie, this bringing us back together as friends, rekindling our friendship, has also been wonderful as well. And I hope that we continue this.
Absolutely. Absolutely, we will. I think there is things that are going to happen with us working together on different things as well in the future. Mm-hmm. So I will also put the link of heartofthehorse.us in the podcast notes. So you can just go to the podcast notes and click on that link, and it will take you directly to Ginny's website. So again, I want to thank you for being a guest on Dr. Lottie Science and Soul. And is there any message that you would like to give to the listeners?
Well, I think that our experience with these puppies speaks to my passion and my purpose right now, which is to be a bridge to a greater understanding between humans and animals, to that interspecies relationship, conscious relationships with animals, which they are requiring of me, a conscious relationship. They're not just an animal to be pushed around to and fro and not giving them explanations. They're asking for information and to be included in the plans of the household already. And I'm hoping that my work in the future will help many more people release the doubt that these types of relationships are possible for all of us, for everyone, that you don't have to have a near-death experience to have this level of communication with animals. It's possible for all of us.
Beautiful. Again, thank you so much for being a guest on the show.
Thank you.